gone." The priest merely looked aside, and one of the men struck her quickly on the shoulder with his sword. She gasped and clutched it with her other hand, as blood seeped out through the cut linen of her smock and between her fingers. "One more time," he said. "Do you recognize the Holy Christian Church of Rome?" The teacher reached forward with her bloody hand and grabbed the cross. The priest yanked it away from her and stepped back. This time he nodded, and two of the men seized the young woman by her arms and swiftly walked her off into the woods. She made no sound. The girls knew they would never see her again. They huddled more closely together and held on to one another. They had come from different towns, just north of the Pyrenees Mountains: Toulouse, Narbonne, Pamiers, Castres, and they reflected their region's diverse Mediterranean history. They had long since descended from Romans, Jews, Franks, Moors, and Catalonians, and were united by their affection for one another and by their distinct Christian faith. They were Cathars, the separate Christian sect that the Church in Rome was determined to exterminate. They were stricken now without their teacher. One of the other girls stood forward. It was Ermengarde, an older girl of a minor noble family. She was tall for a 15-year-old and of erect bearing. She was lighter in complexion than the other girls, with sandy blonde hair. "That blood on your cross is the blood of your sins against God," she said, "and no amount of praying in your opulent churches will remove that stain from your souls." The younger girls began to cry. Several of them shouted that they would kiss the cross. Several more fell to their knees and silently prayed. One of the older ones broke out of the group and tried to run away. She was quickly struck down by a sword. They all became quiet. They held each other tightly and they cried low, plangent sobs. "I like this one," said the priest, pointing at the tall blonde. "I will question her more later. Bind her hands and gag her. Throw a sack over her head and send her ahead." He ordered one of the knights to carry her north on his horse. The rest of the men stood around the girls and pointed at them and made lurid comments. They laughed and sneered. The girls cowered. The priest left them, and he and some of his own soldiers searched the huts. They found some food, which they ate. They built a fire and warmed themselves. They watered their horses and prepared for their journey to return to their posts, 10 miles to the north. The girls were hushed and had drawn even more closely together. The priest and a few of the men mounted their horses. The soldiers moved to stand beside the horses. The rest of the men, roughly a dozen, the local men, remained watching the girls. The priest spoke. "My men and I will leave here now. You others have been paid and you have done what was asked of you. Now you may do what you choose. These heretics are outside the law and the church. I only ask that you leave no trace of what was here. Set fire to all these huts." He turned with the knights and the soldiers and left the girls and the brigands behind. The priest smiled. As they rode north, the sounds of men shouting and girls